Awesome. All right, guys, we have a very, very special guest right here. We just did his podcast. You can check him out. And Brian, I mean, what an amazing opportunity, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. First and foremost, I just wanted to introduce you because we just obviously did your podcast and it was an amazing opportunity. I guess talk a little bit about what you do, your podcast, and that's with an S too. You have multiple ones, and yeah, talk to me about like what you got going on with Dude Solutions and everything, man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to to catch up with you again. And yeah, I mean, I'll kind of give the quick and skinny on it, and then we can go deeper where needed. I kind of live my life right now. I have this mission to help people, for lack of a better phrase, just get started. I'm a big believer that the key to really unlocking happiness is to stop searching and actually look within. I think most people can find their happiness by looking inward and self-reflecting on where they actually want to go and being truthful to themselves versus taking a lot of those pressures from outside people and the society and whatever. So that's kind of my mission, is to really impact a lot of and it's not just young folks, although it seems like it's a lot more younger professionals or younger entrepreneurs, but really anyone that's struggling to get started with a new journey, change their life for the better. Because, I look at my life, especially even over the last 5 to 10 years, how drastically different I am. And I just decided to make a change one day and slowly but surely kind of move in a direction toward happiness. So I kind of call it the trifecta of happiness. If people can find what they love, what they can be great at, and where they can make the greatest impact on the world that they want to make, man, you're right in line with having a very happy and fulfilled life. So that's really what I'm all about. And excited to share some of those stories and hopefully help some others, optimize their life, which is, I know, what's important with your podcast.
Yeah, and it's really important too, because I'm all about actionable tactics. I've talked to a million people, and the broad, unfortunate stroke of it, man, is people are just talking in these basic generalities with no concrete advice for getting started or how to, optimize their, life. So I wanted to touch on with Dude Solutions. You're a senior account executive. Yeah, you're an executive, so you have, tremendous pull over there. What's something that you guys are doing inside your company, I guess, like with the mentality that you guys have going on there, that would be different than any other, company that we have going on right now, that spreads that happiness like you were talking about earlier?
Well, yeah. And so with Dude Solutions is kind of my full-time job, and I have my side hustles with the podcast and books and stuff. And the Dude's been very good for me and good to me the last few years. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity there. And, being in software sales, this a little bit from kind of the stuff you do, like, software sales is a different animal, and sales in general. So I think one of the things, and this is kind of like top of the line, but we can pull deeper, is I think just the overarching approach of taking care of people and being good to people. It's interesting how, you were on my podcast and we were talking about Gary Vee a little bit, about, and he's kind of, his mantra lately has been, I've been kind of thinking through as I see some of his stuff about this, being nice and how important being nice is. And he's been kind of saying that for a while in different hints and tones. But it's something I've been, really keen on for a long time, because I've always been kind of the nice guy. And sometimes they say nice guys finish last. And I didn't want to ever believe that, because I said, no, it's what I believe. I want to make people happy. I want to make people succeed. And if they succeed, well, yeah, selfishly, I'll probably succeed as well. But that's some of the stuff. So yeah, my full-time role, at the Dude, as we call it, it's pretty cool because, we're working, at least where I am from a local government standpoint. I mean, we're working with frontline. I mean, think about it, like folks that take care of the parks, in recreation areas, folks that do permitting. These are folks that are in the trenches every day, cleaning up the cities and the schools and all this stuff, and being able to actually help them out and make their life, because they're the unsung heroes. I mean, no one talks about, how a HVAC system got fixed so that the kids can go to school the next day. No one talks about that, but it's vitally important. And there's a lot of these unsung heroes, that we take care of and as our partners over there. So anyways, that's kind of a little tangent, but I really think with Dude Solutions, again, it's all client focused because we understand that if we take care of our clients, in turn, we'll be successful.
And that's great because you come from a place of giving, right? I mean, and I completely understand you. I mean, the fact that you guys are cleaning up, the world really, it's a lot of people want to say, oh, we want to, do our part for the world. But, again, back to what I was just saying, making these actionable things with HVAC, which all these other solutions, which you guys have, it makes you feel good because you're actually, you're putting kids back in school, especially in COVID, you're putting people back to work, and that, forward momentum that you guys are giving, I can't estimate how much, joy that brings you, on such a, different level of basis. Right.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
I think,
at the end of the day, we're selling software, it's like, it's sometimes it's not sexy,
yeah, for
but
sure.
but at the same time, it helps a lot of people with doing their job better and making it more efficient. And so again, in the long run, that kind of helps everyone. And it's something, I learned just personally, like, I think back to, I was really fortunate. I don't know about you, Sean, but I was really fortunate with having some great grandparents, not great grandparents, but like a great pair of grandparents, if I said that right. And always remember my grandmother, Nana Rowe, and she just actually passed away last year, which was probably one of the saddest days of my life. But
Sorry to hear that.
had that servant leadership, and I always used to remember this as a kid, as I observed growing up, where she would and we were fortunate, we had a lot of family until everyone moved out of Endicott. We had a lot of family that lived in upstate New York, so we were only probably 5 miles away from my grandparents, and we'd go over there a lot, and she was always, she'd cook food for all the grandkids and stuff, and I always remembered her eating last. Like, she'd be huddled in the corner after we all finished our food and she did the dishes, and she's there like eating like the cold food. And I'm like, I never asked her that. And that's one of the regrets I have, is asking her that question. It's like, Rosie, why did you do? That's why I used to call her. I used to joke with her. I just calls her Rosie. She'd be like, oh,
That's
I'm going to
cute.
haul off and, you call me Nana Rowe. But, I used to say, Rosie, like, why are you, why do you do that? I never got a chance to ask that to her, but it's that servant leadership that I always learned, is like, this is what you do. You take care of people, you make people happier. In turn, you're going to probably be happy, So she was a phenomenal woman. I miss her every day.
That's the equivalent to my babci. So babci is grandma in Polish, and she was, I gotta be honest, hard Catholic. She wasn't a nun, but you know how like back in the day they would have the
The
rulers and they
sticks,
would
the
slap you,
free.
yeah, they would slap your wrist and stuff. That's how it was, man. She was hard, but she always paid it through. She would make the meals, she would clean up, and she would eat the scraps, man. And there's something to be said about that, where you give, give, give. It's like Gary Vee says, in sales, and you probably know this too. You want to jab, 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 right hook, and land that punch. So it's something where, I really love to just bring those tactics to life because it's so important. And again, in business, man, or like any other, whether we're talking about, doing CrossFit or doing jujitsu and being a good partner and paying it forward, or, you're some marketing company where sure, you're doing a little extra bit of work to really help someone, pay their bills. And, they're a small business too. So they need to get their nut and they need to, feed their family and pay their mortgage and all these kind of bills. So it's that extra value that I love doing, and I
Right.
sure people say all the time, they go, Brian, for me, they're like, you put out so much value, you put out so much value for free. Why don't you charge for it? Well, here's the thing, especially in COVID, why would I want to charge? Because people, A, probably can't afford it. B, I would get more, more of a brand and more of a following and being authentic if I would just give out, my strategies and tactics for free because they trust me, that's more so that trust factor. And three, it just feels good. It just feels good to be a good person, and again, help with these, concrete strategies. So, and it's so important, man. And I mean, going, to segue here for a little bit, you train CrossFit, and that's something where, you talk about paying it forward, man. I mean, you got to bust your ass with that, on a
Yeah.
daily basis. Like, talk me through of your mindset with that. Like, what got you started? When did you start? And what's like the relationship been from when you started to where you are today?
Yeah, and let me take a little step back a little further, which I think will help tell the story better. I've always tried to this is actually I'll tell this story. I don't tell this story a lot, but it's kind of funny. Is I've gone through these, like, I mean, on the video here, like these hills and valleys, like these big hills and valleys,
Mhm.
where like in high school and stuff, like I played basketball and I was a big golfer. That was my sport. But I
Sure.
was never like in shape really. I was kind of probably a pudgy kid for being, as my family used to say, is like I have a third leg because I just eat like no other, but I never gained any weight. So it's kind of like that. I didn't have any muscle or anything. Well, I
Right.
get to, and this is typical like early 20s, like back in the day, like I get to like I was 19, 20 years old, and I just finished my freshman internship for college, and I'm going back to school, and I looked at a picture. This is actually, Sean, this would be when kids used to, you actually had to develop film.
Remember that?
This
Yeah.
is a different time. So I remember looking at the picture, this one picture, and I had taken on this internship with this guy, I'd met there, who's like lived next door to me, and like his friend or something. And I looked scrawny, and I said, "Wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Like I'm almost 20 years old. I look scrawny compared to some of my friends at college who were like baseball players. They were working out. Like they look like men, and I was like this young boy." So what I did is my buddies Mike and Lenny and a couple other folks, my brother and stuff, because we went to the same college. I said, "Guys, I want to start working out with you." So I worked out. If you'll laugh at this maybe, but I worked out 6 days a week, starting September 1st. I started of that
Right.
year. This is 2002. September 1st. I was 155 pounds. I weighed in.
And how tall are you?
6'3".
Damn.
Yeah.
Fuck, bro.
I have a picture at Christmas that year. I went out to this. My dad lives in Durango, Colorado, so I went to visit him. I have a picture of Christmas that year. So what is that? 4 months later,
Mhm.
guess how much I weighed?
You're like 170.
200 pounds.
Jesus. And
I
now
was
that's not,
eating. I
I
don't
know,
know.
like,
Actually, I'm guessing how many calories. I look back at what I was. Yeah, I was probably eating close to 5,000 calories a day. I had to be.
and that's
Like
like no HGH, no steroids, no
no,
BS,
no,
just
nothing.
full hard work.
It was like protein shakes twice a day. It was, I mean, I was eating like McDonald's, like supersized, like anything I could get my hands on. It was hilarious actually thinking back now. But that's a very long story to say my fitness journey has been all over the place. So then, I do like, I trimmed down. I remember a couple years later when I moved to Raleigh, my buddy and I did like some, challenge together to motivate. And I was down to like in the mid 170s. My weights fluctuate a lot between probably 170 and 200 a few
Right.
times throughout my adult life. So saying all that, I was doing like Beachbody program. You know what Beachbody is?
Yeah.
Like those
Mhm.
online video and really good
Yeah.
stuff. Did P90X, did a lot of those
It's
things.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good home workouts. But at some point, I was just getting so like bored and complacent after doing that for a bunch of years, half a dozen years.
Stagnant. Yeah.
So in December, and actually, it's funny, my brother and another friend of mine, they had done CrossFit a little bit prior. So like 2016, 2017, and they told me about it. But I was like, I'm not doing CrossFit. Like, you hear the stories about CrossFit
Yeah.
and,
There's so many rumors. Yeah.
the cult that there is. And it's completely untrue besides the actual community aspect. So anyways, my neighbor had started to do CrossFit and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come to class? And it's right down the road or whatever." So this is December of 2018. And I said, "All right, I'll go do a class." Or excuse me, December of 2017. I'm sorry. December of 2017. And so I went and did a class, and literally I walked out of there and be like, "Yep, this is exactly for me," because you're moving weights around, but it's fun. The exercises are like I said, they're really strenuous, but you're getting workout. But the biggest thing for me was the community aspect of people just cheering you on, wanting you. Like if they finish first and you're still finishing, like they're there cheering you. Like I love that so much. And like that's what I needed. So it got me out of the house and actually did, getting into a gym again, which had been many years. And now we're 3 years later and I'm still loving it. I just got back. North Carolina was one of the last states to open
Mhm.
their fitness centers. They did about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I've been back to a couple classes, and kind of start back full bore again. So it's been a cool journey, to say the least.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I'm sure that, obviously from that mental perspective too, physical, you're like, oh, it's a great workout. But mentally, you have that community that's, like you just said, you could be the last person, to finish and they're clapping you on. They're like, yeah, let's go, Brian. You got it, man. Let's go, go, go. That is so powerful because that's a support system now. You go, you had a shitty day at work, man. You go to class and you have people, yo, what's up, man? How you been? How's your day?
Yeah.
Oh, not the best. Oh, it's all good. And it alleviates a lot of stress, man. So
Yeah.
like I have with jujitsu, you have with CrossFit. So that's a beautiful thing. I think that a lot of people could find that, and again, I'm all about, working out by myself and, putting the hoodie on and putting the headphones in and just, grunting and all that stuff too. But when you work out with the team, with the community, man, it's so much more powerful. You want to keep doing it. You want to build that team. So kudos to you. I think that a lot of people could learn more about that.
Well,
and
oh, sorry to interrupt there. I thought it must be the Zoom call here is a delay.
No, you're fine, man. No, go ahead.
What I was going to say is, to that point, I think you have to discover what you want. So if you've never tried CrossFit, don't be naive like I was and say, oh, CrossFit's like, again, it has a cult and it's all these people just moving around big weights. Well, yes, that's some of it if you want to do that. But heck, there's a ton of people that are at our box that are probably not, they would consider themselves not in great shape yet, but they've showed up. They've decided to, and there's modifications all over, right? If we're doing heavy squats, they may just be doing air squats or a goblet squat with a 20-pound kettlebell. Like there's a lot of, changes you can do. And the one point I'm at make, because I do want to make sure there's some, impactful points here that I think could be valuable. What I've learned in my journey is it's funny. I told that story a little while ago and it just clicked in my head. Like, I'm no spring chicken. I mean, that was 18 years ago. And it's crazy. Like that was almost half my life ago. I'm 37 years old. Yeah. And here's the difference though. Back when I told that story, it was all about how I looked. I wanted to look better, right? I wanted to look better to get the girls. I wanted to look better for whatever reason. Now I do it because I want to feel better. And that's been a complete 180. It's probably taken less time because I think I figured that out a few years ago, but it's taken a lot of years to realize, great, you're probably going to look good if you work out a lot and you do your thing. But if you feel good, if your mind's right, if your body feels good, if you feel energized, you're going to want to go to that next workout. You're going to want to, do the podcast because you have energy. You're going to want to hang out with your kids or whatever it is. So I think that's the most valuable thing is if you don't feel good, like if you're listening to this right now and you don't feel good for whatever reason, you should be, and I'm not saying you like talking down to you, like I'm looking in the mirror as well. Anytime you go through that, you have to start figuring out why. Diagnose right now. Why do you not feel good? Is it just you had a bad meal in last meal and maybe it didn't set well? Or have you been, struggling getting out of bed for the last month and a half? Well, that's a big issue because the one thing I will tell you, Sean, a little advice for the future, your body catches up to you. And right. I was very nimble and flexible and stuff without doing much yoga or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, like 35 hit and muscles started pulling where they didn't pull before and tightness started to be where. So I've had to really work, and I haven't done as well as I'd like in terms of working more yoga and stretching. But it's so important to put those in. So anyways, sorry for the tangent on that, but I think it's valuable to that mindset shift is really important for people to get to the next level, I think.
Yeah, it's so impactful, man. I think that, if anybody can have, and I really hope that people can take that in because I used to be the same way. I'm still struggling with it. I'm 23 and sure, like my ego's at an all-time high. I want to be the fucking man. I want to be, ripped. But it's like, you think about it. Like right now I'm thinking, I'm probably going to get home around 5:00. I'll, go hit the gym and, do my thing or whatever. But like, am I doing this? And I was just thinking about this when you were talking. It's like, am I lifting because I want to look good? Yeah, it's because of that. I'm not necessarily sure it makes me feel good, but I think we should switch it, right? Like you were saying, we should think about, oh, it's going to make me feel good. It's going to make me, like, I had a stressful day today. It's going to relieve that stress. So I think it's so important for people to really conceptualize that. Sure, you're going to look good, but you got to think about it. If you're trying to crush yourself, you're doing hit workout after hit workout, and you're like, oh, I don't have that six pack yet. Oh my God. But you feel like crap. You're not training right mentally. You're not training because you're not in a good position. So
Well,
again,
and one of the things too, to that point, and there's a lot of stuff, when I used to teach golf, I was a PGA professional for many years and, taught golf here in Raleigh, and I
right.
still love coaching. If I get the chance, friends and neighbors, want some help because I love the game so much, but it's a cause and effect, right? I always say, like, are you solving the symptom or are you solving the problem? And if it's always like, oh, I want to look good, well, you know what you start doing? You start doing a ton of bench press and you start doing a ton of, like, dumbbells or whatever. And you know what you neglect? You neglect your legs maybe, or you neglect other areas of your body. And all of a sudden, now things get out of whack. But and this is why I love CrossFit so much, because it's such a well-rounded functional fitness workout. When you just try to say, I want to feel better and I want to move better, now all of a sudden your body actually gets it looks good automatically just because you've done the right things. So that's why I think it's so important. I know when you're on my podcast, you mentioned Goggins a little bit, and if people haven't listened to, and I say listen because I would recommend David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And I would get the audio book. Don't read it. Get the audiobook because it is so much better. I mean, they do mini podcasts between chapters and stuff. Anyways, he talks about that. Have you read his book?
Yeah, I listened to it. Yeah.
Okay, you listen to it. So
totally
the
different
part,
story. Yeah.
The part when he's talking about, and this is not really a spoiler for anyone, like the book's been out for a few years. But when he's talking about where he couldn't figure out like why his body was all locked up. Remember this? Like he was having a lot of issues and headaches and all this stuff. And he realized it was his body was so tight. And now he stretches like 2 hours a day. And that was just doing, typical Goggins, like, over analysis probably, but like he went through the analysis of like, what was working, what wasn't working, how do I get better? What are things I can try? He saw the different doctors, and then he kind of used logic, I think, to kind of piece it together. But he took the necessary precautions to change his life, even though he had done everything physically, known to man probably. He went and tried to change that. So I think that's just a testament of going out and trying to seek the right answers, and then ultimately using your gut and making some good choices for your own life.
Yeah. And that's, you just touched on it right there, man. It starts with yourself. You could have your parents, you could have a mentor say, hey, tell you they're blue in the face. Yeah, Sean, you got to be working out, to feel better. You need to be figuring out what you want to do in this life, but until you actually conceptualize that and believe it and truly, truly in your soul, understand and become comfortable with yourself to make that decision by yourself and not someone else. That's when the journey starts, I believe, because we could be like, I could easily be sitting to you right here. I have my company and, I'm just being a fake person and not necessarily knowing who I am, but it's taken that struggle and just trial and error to figure out what I really want to do in this life. And that could be for, physical, mental, all those kind of different things. So it's so important, man. And, honestly, just really getting started and formulating a plan of action. You don't need to be crazy like Goggins and just pound the pavement. But
right.
Like I was saying in your show earlier, man, just, incrementally growing and just slowly building. But something I want to end on.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So something I want to end on for people that are, and my audience, man, is more so people who have that 9 to 5, but they're looking for actionable steps, right? They're looking to either get that business or get, that little bit teeny tiny percent of just being a little bit healthier, a little bit just feeling better. What's something you think, whether it's diet, exercise, or some meditation that you can recommend to people who are looking for that kind of benefit?
Well, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole here a little deeper, if you don't mind.
Please do.
I think first it starts with perspective. And this is where it took me a while to really learn this. The reality is, think about it. We're on a spinning rock in the universe of billions of stars. and we're one little speck of, we happen to be alive and have some consciousness. I mean, think about all the other animals, or there's insects walking around right below us. Don't really have any idea that, they're probably alive, or, they can even consciously think. So we actually have some conscious thought, right? So we have that going for us, which is nice, I guess. So I think first having the perspective on it, like, you have one life. This is something that took me a while to understand. I don't know, I could go out today and get hit by a bus. And that is true. We don't know what's going to happen. We like to think we can control it, but we really have zero idea what's going to happen. So having that mentality, that what is the worst that can happen? Like, if I put out my Just Get Started podcast, and I put out episodes, and actually, it's funny that this actually just happened. I don't know when this will release, but a few days ago, or a few days ago, probably when this releases, maybe it's been a few weeks now, but I just recorded, like, I call them like my one mic session. Sometimes I record these just me talking, right, without guests.
Right.
And I had recorded, I took 3 times to record it. Normally I just do it once, but like I had some audio issues at one. Anyways, long story short, I had and the third one I listened back to, they're only like 10, 12 minutes. And I was like, is this, yeah, I guess it's okay, and then I like clicked in my head. I was like, that's old Brian. Like, dude, snap out of it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, it's
True.
put it out there. Like, who cares? It's what you thought now. It's what your ideas are. It's how you wanted to, articulate this particular idea. It was on practice. And I was like, that's how it is. Like, just put it out there. Who cares? And obviously, so I did. But it goes back to, like, that was the big fear that I had of starting the podcast, was what everyone else was going to think. But you know what the thing is? It doesn't matter. It's just like going back to, we're talking about Dude Solutions and like sales roles I've had or whatever. It doesn't, you can make every excuse in the book. When you're in sales, it matters at the end of the year, what's your number? And did you hit your number? And if you didn't hit your number, you better have a really good reason why. But it obviously you'd like to not do that. But the whole point is, it's the same thing with your personal life. And so even if you have a role, like you're doing a full-time job, exactly like I am, what do you really want to do in life? If that's what you really want to do, awesome. I'm glad you figured it out. But what else makes you happy, right? Is it, binge watching certain shows? Great, then go do that. Is it playing a sport, doing CrossFit, doing jujitsu? Great, do that. Is it just, figuring out, the greater ends of the universe? Awesome. Figure out other things that make you happy and try and test and taste, because you may not know what makes you happy, right? You may not have an idea. I mean, there's things like CrossFit I'm doing, we talk when you're on my show about jujitsu, you've been doing for a few years, right?
Yeah.
You may not 6 years ago knew that. You didn't know you liked that, right? You want to be an engineer. You had no idea about the stuff you're doing now until just a couple of years ago. So you have to try and test and taste some things. So
Yeah.
I think the first thing for your audience that I would encourage is have some perspective of where you're at, right? Don't say I'm going to wait 5 years, because 5 years may not come. Do it now, right? Do it now. And it might be a slow progress, but that's fine. Start doing it very slow. Maybe it's for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. You can work on a fun project. Maybe you want to be an author and you want to write a book. Don't say, well, book's going to take a while, I'll just do it down the road. No, why not? Start today. Write for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Put on your calendar, write for 30 minutes next week. Slowly put it together. And then as you build momentum, it can get better that way. So I think having perspective, and then I think having some self-awareness of who you are. Like, if you're a procrastinator, like I can procrastinate a little bit, I got to check myself at the door sometimes. And I got to figure out, if I know I'm going to procrastinate, well, I need to put my phone down. I need to block out time and I need to get it done, because I know generally I could kind of taper off on some stuff. So I think recognizing who you are and being real with yourself, those are the 2 biggest things, because after that, it's all gravy. Because if you have perspective and you understand where your strengths are and your weaknesses are, you can tackle anything, because you know how to catch yourself when you start to taper off, or how to push, the gas pedal down when you do want to keep going forward. And then you can create anything you want. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, and that's so simple. And like, like we were talking about earlier, man, you don't need to go full Goggins and just go crazy, but you really can just map out a schedule. You're going to train, X times a week for just a little increment, maybe 10, 15 minutes, right? And slowly build from that. And maybe if you see, hey, I'm just going to try this for a month, and you know what, it wasn't my thing, you can move on to something else. You're not tied down. You're not, fortunately, we live in the greatest country in the world, in America, where we can say what we want and do what we feel, so it's a beautiful thing where we're not persecuted for any religion we have, for any job we have. We're not tied down, we're not tied down at all. We can do what we want. So I think,
and there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to do it. No one is busy enough where you can't do a full-time job.
Absolutely.
I have a son. I'm doing these other things, but the reason I'm doing them, just to hit the point home, is I'm choosing to do them. I'm making the choices to do them. No one's telling, like my podcast, my children's books I'm writing, no one's telling me to do them, because if they did, it'd be crap. It's why I don't monetize my podcast right now, because I feel if someone gives me some money, I'm going to start slacking off, maybe be like, well, this is good. No, nope. I have the drive where I know what I want to do with the podcast. I want to control everything. I want to put the content out I want to put out. I want to speak to the guests I want to speak to. And that's what I want to do. And that's what's cool about the world. As long as you're doing stuff and being, in my estimation, being positive and optimistic and having gratitude on where we're at in the world, and if you're putting that out, I don't give a hell what you do. I just want to talk to you and know that you're happy, because that make me happy, that knowing that you're happy,
Yeah, I mean, from your lips to God's ears, my friend. I think that this has been a tremendous, episode in terms of just really putting yourself in the perspective of, you're not tied down to what you're doing right now. And again, me and you, let's just put it what it is. We're authority figures in our niche, right? I'm trying to be as humble as I can when I say that, but we really know our stuff, right? So how did we get to this point? We didn't just grow overnight and we're like, oh, we're going to, get all this, fame and all this notoriety. No, we start off small and we grow. And like you just said, man, like if I'm going to post an Instagram pic tonight, right? Which I am actually in an hour, and I have the caption I want, people want me to be this entrepreneurial person. I don't know how to, like, on Instagram, I want to be myself. I don't want to be showing the businessman all cooped up and all professional. Sure. I mean, that's who I am in business, but that's just this personal, man. And if, like I had someone, Brian, talked to me the other day, they're like, Sean, you should really be more professional on your Instagram. I told him, dude, I understand where you're coming from, but I want to be my own person. You telling me that's your motivation. That's your mentality. That's your, mindset, period. I'm not in your head, nor do I want to be. I want to be my own person. So this is what I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, man, hit the unfollow button. I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm happy. So
well, I think you have to be, yeah, I think you have to, and actually it's funny. I'll take it the other way. And the reason I feel I've been successful in sales, the person you just heard on this podcast, go listen to a sales call. That's exactly how I sound. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't try to change my tone of voice. I don't use different vocabulary. I'm just Brian, because I care about helping people and improving their life. And whether I do that through sales or podcast or anything else, it all comes back to my mission in life. And that's what I think is probably one of the most valuable points to maybe hit home is, what's your mission? Where do you want to impact the world? Everything goes back to that. Like everything for me circles back to the just get started mantra, everything. So anything I do always has that as the backbone. And that's been the most valuable thing that I've learned probably over the last year, is that I don't have books. I don't have podcasts. Those are just projects. What I have is my Just Get Started platform and what I'm passionate about, and everything ties back to that. And that's where I can say is who I am is what I do, right? It's not what I do is who I am. It's the other way around. So to kind of wrap that point home, I'm the same person everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram, sales calls, podcast, hanging out with my son. It don't matter, because you know what I realized a long time ago? When I'm myself, I don't have to lie. I don't have to tell lies to people. I don't have to act a different way. I don't have to front. There's a lot of people that like me, and there's probably a lot of people that don't like me. That's perfectly fine as well. I think I bring off positivity and stuff. If people don't like me, I mean, I can't control that. I do the best I can, but you can't win over everyone. You just got to be authentic and real. And I think that's the only way to live, man.
I agree, man. I couldn't have said that better myself. Brian, thank you so much, my man. Before we end, what are you promoting? Where can people find you? Any website? Obviously we have your podcast, and I'll definitely link you out. But where can people find you, man?
Yeah, I always promote just people making decisions and choices to make themselves happy. That's what I want to promote. No,
I love that.
yeah, go check out my website, brianondrako.com. It's BrianOndrako.com. I'm on all the socials there at Brian Ondrako. You can find me and interact. And the podcast is Just Get Started. So definitely encourage people to check it out. Check out your episode of the Just Get Started podcast as well. So yeah, look forward to connecting with folks wherever I can.
Woof, awesome. Brian and Jacob, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so
Thanks,
much,
John.
bro.
Awesome, man.
All right, take it easy.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Dude. Yeah, man.
Dope, man. That was fire. I love that.
Hopefully it was good. I just say what's on my mind. So
More than that, man.
So again, this will take a bit to convert.
Sure.
And then I'm running out to meet a coworker, but I'll send this to you probably tomorrow or something. What I'll do is I'll throw it up on Google Drive and I'll just send you the link.
Dude, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, you have no idea how appreciative that you just did that. So I really thank you for that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Cool, Dan. Let's keep in touch. I don't know how you promote or anything. I put a few graphics together. This will launch like in, I think it'll launch probably in like early to mid-November-ish. And yeah, I put some guest graphics together and stuff like that. So I'll kind of send those out to you, the couple days prior to launch. Sure.
That sounds perfect, man. Yeah. So for your episode, I'm going to be making, like you said, graphics and give you a little sound bite, of course, so you can promote it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I got and having the video and audio here, if you're cool with it, I may edit myself and take some snippets out.
Yeah, for sure, man. Whatever you got to do.
So.
Awesome.
All right, dude. Good stuff, man. Good to connect, man. We'll chat soon.
100%. Yeah, definitely stay connected, and got a lot of big things, man. So thank you so much.
All right, man. Be good. Take care.
You too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.